All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back for our last few chapters of The Hate You Give. I know on Friday, well, technically it's still Friday, but I'm getting a head start in the reading for next week for you because I know a few of you would like to hear the end. Chapter 22 was, a chance for Star to learn more about Chris's home and see him in his element and on his DJ turntable and all that kind of stuff. So they have their moment, and ultimately, they start making out a little bit, getting a little frisky, but ultimately just end up falling asleep together and having that special time. Unfortunately, they are awakened by Star's phone, and we see that people are panicking, trying to reach out to her as Devante has been hurt, and they're all over at Aisha's and the um, gang household, if you will. I'm not sure how to phrase that politically correct, but the main house where the gang, Maverick's rival gang, gathers. So when they're there, they're all under the influence and dancing, doing what adults do at adult parties. And the kids are trying to console Devante. And Aisha basically comes in and says, "Get out of here. You're bleeding everywhere and you're making a mess. Just get out." So, not the most touching moment between mother and son and mother and children. But let's see what happens because we know at the end the radio announcer came on and mentioned that Officer 115 was not guilty. So they are not charging him, they're not indicting him, they're not going any further with the accusations. He has been dismissed of any wrongdoing. So let's see what happens as a result. It's a quiet ride to Seven's grandma's house. I told the truth. I did everything I was supposed to do, and it wasn't good enough. Khalil's death wasn't horrible enough to be considered a crime. But damn, what about his life? He was once a walking, talking human being. He had family. He had friends. He had dreams. None of it mattered. He was just a thug who deserved to die. Car horns honk around us. Drivers shout to the decision to the rest of the neighborhood. Some kids around my age stand on top of a car as they shout, "Justice for Khalil!" Seven maneuvers around it all and parks in his grandma's driveway. He's silent and unmoving at first, and then suddenly he punches the steering wheel, and we see the F word. Devante shakes his head. This is some BS. We see another F word. So, as we know, when things get emotional, sometimes we swear. I know even Miss Siobhan does this in her own element when it's appropriate, obviously not school appropriate. But sometimes swearing can be a release. He covers his eyes and rocks back and forth, and then we see the F word repeatedly. I want to cry too. I just can't. I don't understand, Chris says. He killed Khalil. He should go to prison. They never do, Kenya mutters. Seven hastily wipes his face. F this. Star, whatever you want to do, I'm down. You want to burn some stuff up? We'll burn some stuff up. Give me the word. Dude, are you crazy? Chris says. Seven turns around. You don't get it, so shut up. Star, what you want to do? Anything. Everything. Scream, cry, puke, hit somebody, burn something, throw something. They gave me the hate, and now I want to F everybody, even if I'm not sure how. And we know those are all thoughts. And then she says, I want to do something, I say. Protest, riot, I don't care. Riot, Chris echoes. Hell yeah, Devante gives me dap. That's what I'm talking about. Star, think about this, Chris says. That won't solve anything. And neither did talking, I snap. I did everything right and it didn't make an effing difference. I've gotten death threats, cops harassed my family, somebody shot into my house, all kinds of stuff. And for what? Justice Khalil won't get? They don't give an F about us. So fine, I no longer give an F back. But, Chris, I don't need you to agree, I say, my throat tight. Just try to understand how I feel, please. He closes and opens his mouth a couple times. No response. Seven gets out and holds his seat forward. Come on, Lyric. Kenya, you stay in here, or you coming with us? Stay in, Kenya says, her eyes wet from earlier, in case Mama shows up. Seven nods heavily. Good idea. She'll need somebody. Lyric climbs off Kenya's lap and runs up the walkway. Kenya hesitates. She looks back at me. I'm sorry, Star, she says. This ain't right. She follows Lyric to the front door, and their grandma lets them inside. Seven returns to the driver's seat. Chris, you want to take me home? Or, Chris, you want me to take you home? I'm staying, Chris nods, as if he's settling with himself. Yeah, I'm staying. You sure you up for this? Devante asks. It's going to get wild out here. I'm sure. He eyes me. I want everyone to know that decision is BS. He put his hand on the seat with his palm facing up. I put my hand on his. Seven cranks up the car and backs out the driveway. Somebody check Twitter. Find out where everything's going down. I got you, Devante. Holds up his phone. Folks headed to Magnolia. That's where a lot of the stuff happened last. He winces and grabs his side. Are you up for this, Devante? Chris asked. Devante straightens up. Yeah, I got beat worse than this when I got initiated. How'd they get you anyway? I ask. Yeah, Uncle Carlos said you walked off, says Seven. That's a long walk. Man, Devante groans in that Devante way. I wanted to visit Dalvin, all right? I took the bus to the cemetery. I hate that he by himself in the garden. I didn't want him to be lonely, if that makes sense. I try not to think about Khalil being alone in Garden Heights, now that Miss Rosalie and Cameron are going to New York with Miss Tammy, and I'm leaving too. It does make sense. Devante presses his towel against his nose and lip. The bleeding slacked up. Before I could catch the bus back, King's boys snatched me up. I thought I'd be dead by now, for real. Well, I'm glad you're not, Chris says. Gives me more time to beat you in Madden. Devante smirks. You crazy white boy. If you think that's going to happen. Cars are up and down Magnolia like it's a Saturday morning, and the dope boys are showing off. Music blasts, horns blare, people hang out their car windows, stand on the hoods, the sidewalks are packed, it's hazy out, and the flames lick the sky in the distance. I tell Seven to park at Just Us for Justice. The windows are boarded up and black owned is sprayed painted across them. Miss Ofra said they would be leading protests around the city if the grand jury didn't indict. We head down the sidewalk, just walking with no particular place to go. It's more crowded than I realized. About half the neighborhood is out there. I throw my hoodie over my hair and keep my head down. No matter what that grand jury decided, I'm still Star who is with Khalil. And I don't want to be seen tonight, just heard. A couple of folks glance at Chris with that, what the hell is the white boy doing out here look. He stuffs his hands in his pockets. Guess I'm noticeable, huh? He says. You're sure you want to be out here? I ask. This is kind of how it is for you and Seven at Williamson, right? A lot like that, Seven says. Then I can deal. The crowds are too thick. We climb on top of a bus stop bench to get a better view of everything going on. King Lords in gray bandanas and Garden Disciples in green bandanas stand on a police car in the middle of the street, chanting, Justice for Khalil. People gathered around the car record the scene with their phones and throw rocks at the windows. And then, as we see, not appropriate language, mess that cop, bro. A guy says gripping a baseball bat, killed him over nothing. He slams the bat into the driver's side window, shattering the glass. It's on. The King Lords and the Garden Disciples stomp out the front window. Then somebody yells, flip that! And then we see MF. The gangbangers jump off. People line up one side of the car. I stare at the lights on top, remembering the ones that flash behind me and Khalil, and watch them disappear as they flip the car onto its back. Someone shouts, watch out! A Molotov cocktail sails toward the car. Then, oomph, it bursts into flames. The crowd cheers. People say misery loves company, but I think it's like that with anger too. I'm not the only one pissed. Everyone around me is. They didn't have to be sitting in the passenger seat when it happened. My anger is theirs, and theirs is mine. A car stereo loudly plays a record-scratching sound. Then Ice Cube says, F the police, coming straight from the underground. And then we see the rest there. You'd think it was a concert, the way people react, rapping along and jumping the beat. Devante and Seven yell out the lyrics. Chris nods along and mumbles the words. He goes silent every time Cube says the N-word, as he should. When that hook hits, a collective F the police thunders off Magnolia Avenue, probably loud enough to reach the heavens. I yell it out too. Part of me is like, what about Uncle Carlos, the cop? But this isn't about him or his coworkers who do their jobs right. This is about 115, those detectives with their BS questions and those cops who made Daddy lie on the ground. F them. Glass shatters. I stop rapping. A block away, people throw rocks and garbage cans at the windows of the McDonald's and the drugstore next to it. One time I had a really bad asthma attack that put me in the emergency room. My parents and I didn't leave the hospital until like 3 in the morning, and we were starving by then. Mama and I grabbed hamburgers at that McDonald's and ate while Daddy got my prescription from that pharmacy. The glass doors of the drugstore shatter completely. People rush in and eventually come back out with arms full of stuff, so they've started looting. Stop, I yell, and others say the same, but looters continue to run in. A glow of orange bursts inside, and all those people rush out. And then Chris, as you can see, says, "Holy," and then there's a curse word. In no time, the building is in flames. Hell yeah, says Devante. Burn that down. I remember the look on Daddy's face the day Mr. Wyatt handed him the keys to the grocery store. Mr. Rubin and all those pictures on his walls showing years and years of legacy he's built. Miss Yvette walking into the shop every morning, yawning. Even pain in the butt Mr. Lewis with the top of the line haircuts. Glass shatters at the pawn shop on the next block. Then at the beauty supply store next to it. Flames pour out both and people cheer. A new battle cry starts up. The roof, the roof, the roof is on fire. We don't need no water. Let that mother burn. I'm just as pissed as anybody. But this isn't it. Not for me. Devante's right there with them, yelling out the new chant. I backhand his arm. What? He says. Chris nudges my side. Guys, a few blocks away, a line of cops in riot gear march down the street, followed closely by 2 tanks with bright lights. This is not a peaceful assembly, an officer on a loudspeaker says. Disperse now, or you will be subject to arrest. The original battle cry starts up again. F the police! F the police! People hurl rocks and glass bottles at the cops. Yo, Seven says. Stop throwing objects at law enforcement, the officer says. Exit the streets immediately, or you will be subject to arrest. The rocks and bottles continue to fly. Seven hops off the bench. Come on, he says, as Chris and I climb off too. We need to get out of here. F the police! F the police! Devante continues to shout. Devante, man, come on, says Seven. I ain't scared of them. F the police! There's a loud pop. An object sails into the air, lands in the middle of the street, and explodes in a ball of fire. Oh, Devante says. He hops off the bench and we run. It's damn near a stampede on the sidewalk. Cars speed away in the street. It sounds like the 4th of July behind us. Pop after pop after pop. Smoke fills the air. More glass shatters. The pops get closer. The smoke thickens. Flames eat away at the cash advance place. Just Us for Justice is fine, though. So is the car wash on the other side of it. Black owned, spray painted on one of its walls. We hop into Seven's Mustang. He speeds out the back entrance of the old Taco Bell parking lot, hitting the next street over. What the hell just happened, he says. Chris slumps in his seat. I don't know. I don't want it to happen again, though. And then we see the N-word. They're tired of taking stuff. They're tired of taking this BS. Devante says between heavy breaths. Like Star said, they don't give an F about us, so we don't give an F about them. Burn this down. But they don't live here, Seven says. They don't give a damn what happens to this neighborhood. What we supposed to do then? Devante snaps. All that kumbaya peaceful stuff clearly don't work. They don't listen till we tearing stuff up. Those businesses, though, I say. What about them? Devante asks. My mama used to work at that McDonald's, and they barely paid her. That pawn shop ripped us off a hell of a lot of times. Nah, I don't give an F about neither one of them. I get it. Daddy almost lost his wedding ring to that pawn shop once. He actually threatened to burn it down. Kind of ironic it's burning now. But if the looters decide to ignore the black-owned tags, they could end up hitting our store. We need to go help Daddy. What? Seven says. We need to go help Daddy protect the store in case looters show up. Seven wipes his face. You're probably right. Ain't nobody gonna touch Big Mav, says Devante. You don't know that, I say. People are pissed. Devante, they're not thinking stuff out. They're doing stuff. Devante eventually nods. All right, fine. Let's go help Big Mav. Think he'll be okay with me helping out, Chris asks. He didn't seem to like me last time. Seemed to, Devante repeats. He straight up mean mugged your butt. I was there. I remember. 7 Snickers. I smack Devante and tell them, shush. What? It's true. He was mad as hell that Chris is white. But you spit that NWA stuff like you did back there. Maybe he'll think you're right. Or maybe he'll think you're all right. What? Surprised a white boy knows some NWA? Chris teases. Man, you ain't white. You light-skinned. Agreed, I say. Wait, Seven says over our laughter. We gotta test them to see if we gotta test him to see if he really is black. Chris, you eat green bean casserole? Hell no, that's disgusting. The rest of us lose it, saying, he's black, he's black. Wait, one more. I say macaroni and cheese, full meal or a side dish? Chris's eyes dart around at us. Devontae mimics the Jeopardy music. How to earn a black card for 300, Alex, Seven says in an announcer's voice. Chris finally answers, full meal. The rest of us groan. Womp, 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 Devontae adds. Guys, it is. Think about it. You get protein, calcium. Protein is meat, Devontae says. Not no damn cheese. I wish somebody would give me some macaroni calling it a meal. It's like the easiest, quickest meal ever, though, Chris says. One box and you're. And that's the problem, I say. Real macaroni and cheese doesn't come from a box, babe. It eventually comes from an oven with crust bubbling on top. Amen. Seven holds his fist to me and I bump it. Oh, Chris says. You mean the kind with breadcrumbs? What? Devontae yells, and Seven goes, breadcrumbs? Nah, I say. I mean there's like a crust of cheese on top. We gotta get you to a soul food restaurant, babe. This fool said breadcrumbs. Devontae sounds seriously offended. Breadcrumbs? The car stops. Up ahead, a road closed sign blocks the street with a cop car in front of it. Damn, Seven says, backing up and turning around. Gotta find another way to the store. They probably got a lot of roadblocks around that neighborhood tonight, I tell him. And then we see again the F word. Breadcrumbs? Devontae still can't get over it. I swear I don't understand white people. Breadcrumbs on macaroni? Kissing dogs on the mouth? Treating their dogs like they're kids, I add? Yeah, says Devontae. Purposely doing stuff that could kill them, like bungee jumping? Calling Target Target? Like that makes it fancier, says Seven. And then Chris says, F. That's what my mom calls it. Seven and I bust out laughing. Saying dumb stuff to their parents, Devontae continues, splitting up in situations when they clearly need to stick together. Chris goes, huh? Babe, come on, I say. White people always want to split up when they do something bad happens. That's only in the horror movies, though, he says. Nah, stuff like that is always on the news, says Devontae. They're going on a hiking trip, split up, and a bear kills somebody. Car breaks down, they split up to find help, and a serial killer murders somebody, Seven adds. Like, have y'all ever heard that there's power in numbers? Devontae asks. For real, though. Okay, fine, Chris says. Since you guys want to go there with white people, can I ask a question about black people? Cue the record scratching. No lie. All three of us turn and look at him, including Seven. The car veers off to the side of the road, scraping against the curb. Seven cusses and gets it back on the street. I mean, it's only fair, Chris mumbles. Guys, he's right, I say. He should be able to ask. Fine, says Seven. Go ahead, Chris. Okay. Why do some black people give their kids odd names? I mean, look at you guys' names. They're not normal. My name normal, Devontae says, all puffed up sounding. I don't know what you're talking about. Man, you named after a dude from Jodeci, Seven says. And you named after a number. What's your middle name? 8? Anyway, Chris Seven says, Devontae's got a point. What makes his name or our names any less normal than yours? Who or what defies normal to you? If my pops were here, he'd say you've fallen into the trap of the white standard. Color creeps into Chris's neck and face. I didn't mean, okay, maybe normal isn't the right word. Nope, I say. I guess uncommon is the word instead, he asks. You guys have uncommon names. I know, about 3 other Devontaes in the neighborhood, though, says Devontae. Right, it's about perspective, says Seven. Plus, most of the names white people think are unusual, actually, have meanings in various African languages. And let's be real, some white people give their kids uncommon names too. I say that's not limited to black people. Just because it doesn't have a duh or la on the front doesn't make it okay. Chris nods. True enough. Why you have to use duh as an example, though, Devontae asks. We stop again, another roadblock. And then we see that Seven swears and hisses. I gotta go the long way, through the east side. East side, Devontae says. That's GD territory, so again, Garden Disciple. And that's where most of the riots happened last time, I remind them. Chris shakes his head. Nope, can't go there then. Nobody's thinking about gangbanging tonight, Seven says. And as long as I stay away from the major streets, we'll be all right. Gunshots go off close by, a little too close by, and all of us jump. Chris actually yelps. Seven swallows. Yeah, we'll be all right. Because Seven said we'd be all right, everything goes wrong. Most of the routes through the east side are blocked off by police, and it takes Seven forever to find one that isn't. About halfway to the store, the car grunts and slows down. Come on, Seven says. He rubs the dashboard and pumps the gas. Come on, baby. His baby basically says, F it, and stops. We see Seven curse. He rests his head on the steering wheel. We're out of gas. You're kidding, right? Chris says. I wish, man. It was low when we left your house, but I thought I could wait a while before I got gas. I know my car. You obviously don't know, I say. We're next to some duplex houses. I don't know what street this is. I'm not familiar with the east side like that. Sirens go off nearby, and it's as hazy and smoky as the rest of the neighborhood. There's a gas station not too far from here, Seven says. Chris, can you help me push it? As in, get out the protection of this car and push it, Chris asks. Yeah, that. It'll be all right. Seven hops out. That's what you said before, Chris mumbles. Buddy climbs out. Devante says, I can push too. Nah, man, you need to rest up, says Seven. Just sit back. Star, get behind the wheel. This is the first time he's ever let anyone else drive his baby. He tells me to put the car in neutral and guide it with the steering wheel. He pushes next to me. Chris pushes on the passenger side, and he constantly glances over his shoulder. The sirens get louder and the smoke thickens. Seven and Chris cough and cover their noses with their shirts. A pickup truck full of mattresses and people speeds by. We reach a slight hill, and Seven and Chris jog to keep up with the car. Slow down, Seven yells. I pump the brakes. The car stops at the bottom of the hill, and Seven coughs into his shirt. Hold on, I need a minute. I put the car in park. Chris bends over, trying to catch his breath. The smoke is killing me, he says. Seven straightens up and slowly blows air out of his mouth. We'll get to the gas station faster if we leave the car. The two of us can't push it all the way. What the hell? I'm sitting right here. I can push. I know that, Star. Even if you did, we'll still be faster without it. Damn, I don't want to leave it here, though. How about we split up, Chris says. Two of us stay here, two of us go get some gas. And this is that white people stuff you guys were talking about, isn't it? Yes, the rest of us say. Told you, says Devante. Seven folds his hands and rests them on top of his dreads. And then we see F, F, F. We gotta leave it. I get Seven's keys and he grabs a gas can from the trunk. He caresses the car and whispers something to it, like he's afraid he's not going to see it again. I think he says he loves it and promises to come back. Lord. The four of us start down the sidewalk and pull our shirts over our mouths and noses. Devante limps but swears he's all right. A voice in the distance says something. I can't make it out, and there's a thunderous response like from a crowd. Chris and I walk behind the other two. His hand falls to his side and he brushes up against me, his sly way of trying to hold my hand. I let him. So this is where you used to live, he says. I forgot this is his first time in Garden Heights. Yeah, well, not this side of the neighborhood. I'm from the west side. West side, Seven says as Devante throws up a W. The best side. On my mama, Devante adds. I roll my eyes. People go too far with that. What side of the neighborhood you from, mess? You saw that big apartment complex we passed? Those are the projects we lived in when I was younger. Chris nods. That place where we parked? Was that the Taco Bell your dad took you and Seven to? Yeah, they opened a new one closer to the freeway a few years ago. Maybe we can go there together one day, he says. Bro, Devante butts in. Please tell me you ain't considering taking your girl to Taco Bell for a date. Taco Bell? Seven hollers, laughing. Excuse me, was anybody talking to y'all, I ask? You, my friend, I'm trying to help you out, says Devante. Your boy ain't got no game. I have game, Chris says. I'm letting my girl know I'm happy to go with her anywhere, no matter what neighborhood it's in. As long as she's there, I'm good. He smiles at me without showing his teeth. I do too. Psh, it's still Taco Bell, says Devante. By the end of the night, it'll be Taco Hell with them bubble guts. The voice is a bit louder now, not clear yet. A man and a woman run by on the sidewalk, pushing two shopping carts with flat-screen TVs in them. They're wildin' out here, Devante says with a chuckle, but grabs his side. King kicked you, didn't he? Seven says, with those big boom Tims on, so with those big boots on, right? Devante whistles a breath out. He nods. Yeah, he did that to my mama once, broke most of her ribs. A Rottweiler on a leash in a fenced-in yard barks and struggles to come after us. I stomp my foot at it. It squeals and jumps back. She's all right, Seven says, though it seems like he's trying to convince himself. Yeah, she's fine. A block away, people stand around in a four-way intersection, watching something on one of the other streets. You need to exit the street, a voice announces from a loudspeaker. You are unlawfully blocking traffic. A hairbrush is not a gun. A hairbrush is not a gun. A voice chants from another loudspeaker. It's echoed back by a crowd. We get to the intersection. A red, green, and yellow school bus is parked on the street to our right. It says "Just Us for Justice" on the side. A large crowd is gathered in the street to our left. They point black hairbrushes into the air. The protesters are on Carnation, where it happened. I haven't been back here since that night. Knowing this is where Khalil, excuse me, I'll take a little sip. Knowing this is where Khalil, and she pauses. I stare too hard. The crowd disappears, and I see him lying in the street. The whole thing plays out before my eyes like a horror movie on repeat. He looks at me for the last time, and a hairbrush is not a gun. The voice snaps me from my daze. Ahead of the crowd, a lady with twists stands on top of a police car holding a bullhorn. She turns toward us, her fist raised for black power. Khalil smiles on the front of her t-shirt. Ain't that your attorney, Star? Seven asks. Yeah. Now I knew Miss Ofra was about that radical life, but when you think attorney, you don't really think person standing on a police car with a bullhorn, you know? Disperse immediately, the officer repeats. I can't see him from the crowd. Miss Ofra leads the chant again. A hairbrush is not a gun. A hairbrush is not a gun. It's contagious and echoes all around us. Seven, Devontae, and Chris join in. A hairbrush is not a gun, I mutter. Khalil drops it into the side of the door. A hairbrush is not a gun. He opens the door to ask if I'm okay. Then pow, pow. A hairbrush is not a gun, I scream loud as I can, fist high in the air, tears in my eyes. I'm going to invite Sister Freeman to come up and give a word about the injustice that took place tonight, Miss Ofra says. She hands the bullhorn to a lady who's also in a Khalil shirt, and she hops off the patrol car. The crowd lets her through, and Miss Ofra heads toward another coworker who's standing near the bus at the intersection. She spots me and does a double take. Star, she says, making her way over. What are you doing here? When they announced the decision, I wanted to do something, so we came to the neighborhood. She eyes beat up Devontae. Oh my God, did you get caught in the riots? Devontae touches his face. I look that bad? That's not why he looks like that, I tell her. But we did get caught in the riots on Magnolia. It got crazy over there. Looters took over. Miss Ofra purses her lips. Yeah, we heard. Just Us for Justice was fine when we left, Seven says. Even if it's not, it's okay, says Miss Ofra. You can destroy wood and brick, but you can't destroy a movement. Star, does your mother know you're out here? Yeah, don't even sound convincing. Just don't even sound convincing to myself. Really? Okay, no. Please don't tell her. I have to, she says. As your attorney, I have to do what's in your best interest. Your mom, knowing you're out here, is in your best interest. No, it's not, because she'll kill me. But you're my attorney, not hers. Can't this be a client confidentiality thing? Star, please. During the other protests, I watched and talked, so now I want to do something. Who said talking isn't doing something, she says. It's more productive than silence. Remember what I told you about your voice? Yeah, you said it's my biggest weapon. And I mean that. She stares at me a second, then sighs out her nose. You want to fight the system tonight? I nod. Come on, then. Miss Ofra takes my hand and leads me through the crowd. Fire me, she says. Huh? Tell me you no longer want me to represent you. I no longer want you to represent me? I ask. Good. As of now, I'm not your attorney. So if your parents find out about this, I didn't do it as your attorney, but as an activist. You saw that bus near that intersection? Yeah. If the officers react, run straight to it. Got it? But what? She takes me to the patrol car and motions at her colleague. The lady climbs off and hands Miss Ofra the bullhorn. Miss Ofra passes it over to me. Use your weapon, she says. Another one of her coworkers lifts me and sets me on top of the cop car. About 10 feet away, there's a shrine for Khalil in the middle of the street. Lit candles, teddy bears, framed pictures, and balloons. It separates the protesters from a cluster of officers in riot gear. It's not nearly as many cops as it was on Magnolia, but still, they're cops. I turn toward the crowd. They watch me expectantly. The bullhorn is as heavy as a gun. Ironic, since Miss Ophir said to use my weapon. I have the hardest time lifting it. I have no idea what to say. I put it near my mouth and press the button. It makes a loud ear-splitting noise. Don't be scared, somebody in the crowd yells. Speak. You need to exit the street immediately, the cop says. You know what? And then we see Effet. My name is Starr. I'm the one who saw what happened to Khalil. I say it into the bullhorn, and it wasn't right. I got a bunch of yas and amens from the crowd. We weren't doing anything wrong. Not only did Officer Cruz assume we were up to no good, he assumed we were criminals. Well, Officer Cruz is a criminal. The crowd cheers and claps. Miss Ophir says, Speak. That amps me up. I turn to the cops. I'm sick of this. Just like y'all think of us are bad because of some people, we think the same about you all. Until you give us a reason to think otherwise, we'll keep protesting. More cheers, and I can't lie, it eggs me on. Forget trigger happy, speaker happy is more my thing. Everybody wants to talk about how Khalil died. I say, but this isn't about how Khalil died. It's about the fact that he lived. His life mattered. Khalil lived. I look at the cops again. You hear me? Khalil lived. You have until the count of 3 to disperse, the officer on the loudspeaker says. Khalil lived, we chant. 1. Khalil lived. 2. Khalil lived. 3. Khalil lived. The can of tear gas sails toward us from the cops. It lands beside the patrol car. I jump off and pick up the can. Smoke whizzes out the end of it. Any second it'll combust. I scream at the top of my lungs, hoping Khalil hears me, and chuck it back at the cops. It explodes and consumes them in a cloud of tear gas. All hell breaks loose. The cops stampede over Khalil's shrine, and the crowd runs. Someone grabs my arm. Miss Ophra, go to the bus, she says. I get about halfway there when Chris and Seven catch me. Come on, Seven says, and they pull me with them. I try to tell them about the bus, but explosions go off and thick white smoke engulfs us. My nose and throat burn as if I swallowed fire. My eyes feel like flames lick them. Something whizzes overhead. Then an explosion goes off in front of us. More smoke. Devante! Chris croaks, looking around. Devante! We find him leaning against a flickering streetlight. He coughs and heaves. Seven lets me go and grabs him by the arm. Man, my eyes, I can't breathe. We run. Chris grips my hand as tight as I grip his. There are screams and loud pops in every direction. Can't see a thing for the smoke, not even the Just Us bus. I can't run. My side, Devante says. Come on, man, Seven says, pulling him. Keep going. Bright lights barrel down the street through the smoke. A gray pickup truck on oversized wheels. It stops beside us. The window rolls down, and my heart stops, waiting for the gun to come pointing out, courtesy of King Lord. But Goon, the Cedar Grove King Lord, with the ponytails, looks at us from the driver's seat, a gray bandana over his nose and mouth. Get in the back, he says. 2 guys and a girl around our age wearing white bandanas on their faces help us into the back of the truck. It's an open invitation, and other people climb in, like this white man in a shirt and tie and a Latino holding a camera on his shoulder. The white man looks oddly familiar. Goon drives off. Devante lies in the bed of the truck. He holds his eyes and rolls in agony. And then we see the language that he uses. Get him some milk, Bry. Goon says through the back window. Milk? We're out. Unk, says the girl in the bandana. And then we hear another curse word. Hold on, Vante. Tears and snot drip down my face. My eyes are damn near numb from burning. The truck slows down. Get little homie, Goon says. The 2 guys in the bandanas grab some kid on the street by his arms and lift him into the truck. The kid looks around 13. His shirt is covered in soot, and he coughs and heaves. I get into a coughing fit. Snorting is like hacking up hot coals. The man in the shirt and the tie hands me his dampened handkerchief. It'll help some, he says. Put it against your nose and breathe through it. It gives me a small amount of clean air. I pass it to Chris. He uses it, passes it to Seven behind him. Seven uses it and passes it to someone else. As you can see, Jim, the man says, looking at the camera, there are a lot of youth out here protesting tonight, black and white. I'm the token, huh? Chris mutters to me before coughing. I'd laugh if it didn't hurt. And you have people like this gentleman going around the neighborhood, helping out where they can, the white man says. Driver, what's your name? The Latino turns the camera toward Goon. Nunya, Goon says. Well, thank you, Nunya, for giving us a ride. Wow, I realize why he looks familiar, though. He's a national news anchor, Brian somebody. This young lady, Here, made a powerful statement earlier, he says, and the camera points toward me. Are you really the witness? I nod. No point hiding anymore. We caught what you said back there. Anything else you'd like to add for our viewers? Yeah, none of this makes sense. I start coughing again, and he leaves me alone. When my eyes aren't closed, I see what my neighborhood has become. More tanks, more cops in riot gear, more smoke, businesses ransacked, streetlights are out, and fires keep everything from being in complete darkness. People run out of the Walmart and carry armfuls of items, looking like ants rushing from an anthill. The untouched businesses have boarded up windows and graffiti that says Black owned. We eventually turn onto Marigold Avenue, and even with the fire in my lungs, I take a deep breath. Our store is in one piece. The windows are boarded up with that same black owned tag on them, like it's lamb's blood protecting the store from the plague of death. The street is pretty still. Top shelf spirits and wine is the only business with broken windows. It doesn't have a black owned tag either. Goon stops in front of our store. He jumps out, comes to the back of the truck, and helps everyone out. Star, Sev, y'all got a key? I pat my pockets for 7 keys and toss them to Goon. He tries each key until one unlocks the door. In here, y'all, he says. Everyone, including the cameraman and reporter, go into the store. Goon and one of the guys in the bandana get Devante and carry him inside. No sign of Daddy. I crawl onto the floor and fall on my stomach, blinking fast. My eyes burn and fill with tears. Goon sets Devante on the old people's bench before running toward the refrigerator. He rushes back with a gallon of milk and pours it onto Devante's face. The milk momentarily turns him white. Devante coughs and sputters. Goon pours more. Stop, Devante says. You 'bout to drown me. I bet your eyes ain't hurting no more, though, Goon replies. I half crawl, half run to the refrigerators and get a gallon myself. I pour it on my face. The relief comes in seconds. People pour milk onto their faces while the cameraman records it all. An older lady drinks from a gallon. Milk pools on the floor, and a college-aged guy lies face down in it and gasps for air. When people get the relief they need, they leave. Goon grabs a bunch of cartons of milk and asks, Aye, can we take this in case somebody needs it on the street? 7 nods and sips from a carton. Thanks, little homie. If I see your pops again, I'll tell him you're all here. You saw our... I cough and sip some milk, dousing the flames in my lungs. You saw our dad? Yeah, a little while ago. He was looking for y'all. Oh, boop. Sir, the reporter says to Goon, can we ride along? We'd like to see more of the neighborhood. Ain't no thing, homie. Hop in the back. He turns to the camera and twists his fingers so they resemble a K and an L. Cedar Grove Kings, baby. Crowns up. Addio. He gives the King Lord call. Leave it to Goon to throw gang signs on live TV. They leave us alone in the store. 7, Chris, and I are in the pool of milk with our knees up to our chests. Devante's arms and legs dangle off the old people's bench, and he chugs back some milk. 7 takes his phone from his pocket. My phone's dead. Star, you got yours? Yeah. I have way too many voicemails and way too many texts, most of them from Mama. I play the voicemails first. They start out safe enough with Mama saying, Star, baby, call me as soon as you get this, okay? But they soon become, Star Amara, I know you're getting these messages. Call me. I'm not playing. They progress to, see, you've taken this too far. Carlos and I are heading out the door right now, and you better pray to God we don't find you. And on the last message left just a few minutes ago, Mama says, oh, so you can't return my calls, but you can lead protests, huh? Mama told me she saw you on live TV, giving speeches and throwing tear gas at cops. I swear I'm going to snatch your life if you don't call me. We in deep crap, man, Devante says. Deep. 7 glances at his watch. Damn, we've been gone for 4 hours. Deep trouble, Devante repeats. Maybe the 4 of us can get a place in Mexico, says Chris. I shake my head. Not far enough for our mom. 7 picks at his face. The milk has dried and formed a crust. All right, we need to call them. And if we call from the office phone, Ma, she'll see it on the caller ID and know we're not lying when we say we're here. That'll help, right? We're at least 3 hours too late for any help, I say. 7 stands and gives me and Chris a hand up. He helps Devante off the bench. Come on, make sure you all sound remorseful, all right? We head for Daddy's office. The front door creaks and something thuds onto the floor. I turn around. A glass bottle with flaming cloth. Oomph. The whole store is suddenly lit bright orange. A heat wave hits like the sun dropped in. Flames lick the ceiling and block the door. So We're at a very scary scene. We'll pause here though, because I do need to start another link, and we'll hear the very next final chapters coming up.